She was seconds from walking out of that failed blind date when two little girls appeared, soaked in rain, clutching a crumpled napkin with her name scrawled in crayon. "Our daddy's sorry he's late," one whispered. But when the door opened, and she saw who their father was, her blood ran cold, because that man wasn't supposed to be there. Before we dive in, where are you watching from and what kind of story do you want to see next? Drop it in the comments. And if stories like this pull you in and don't let go, go ahead, hit subscribe. I have another powerful one coming tomorrow. Now, let's get into the story. Rain whispered against the tall windows of Willow and Birch Cafe, the kind of gentle drizzle that made city lights look like melting glass. Emma Robinson sat alone at the corner table, her phone face down beside a half-empty cup of chamomile tea that had long gone cold. Her fingers drummed the porcelain rim in a steady, quiet rhythm, anything to keep from glancing at the door again. 32 minutes late. She hated that she was still counting. The place was cozy in that curated way most downtown cafes tried to be. Exposed brick, warm lighting, soft indie jazz murmuring through hidden speakers. A couple laughed quietly near the counter. Two students argued over laptops. And Emma, dressed in a cream knit dress and a trench coat that matched the rain's hue, looked like she'd been airbrushed into the wrong scene, composed, self-contained, and utterly alone. This was exactly why she didn't do blind dates. Diane, her well-meaning best friend and serial matchmaker, had promised this one would be different. "Edward Wallace," she'd said, waving a photo like it was proof of fate. "Smart, grounded, widowed father. Works in software architecture, doesn't own a single leather jacket or gym selfie. Just trust me, Em, he's the kind of man who shows up." Emma had laughed then. Shows up? That bar had gotten so low it was underground. Now, with the clock crawling past 7:05, she wasn't laughing anymore. She sighed, pulled her phone closer, and opened her texts. The last message from Diane glowed on the screen. He confirmed. 6:30 sharp. "You're gonna thank me after this one." Emma typed, deleted, retyped. "I think I've been stood up." She didn't hit send. The thought of seeing Diane's instant, "What? I'll call him," was exhausting. Instead, she looked out the window. The world outside was blurred rain and headlights, the rhythm of another Friday night in Atlanta, a city that thrived on promises made and broken between sips of coffee and cocktails. She reached for her tea again just to have something to do. But her hand froze midair when the cafe door opened, chiming softly. Two small figures stepped in from the drizzle. At first, Emma thought they were lost. Twin girls, maybe 6, maybe 7. Identical curls, identical bright pink jackets that looked far too bold for the gray evening. They stood in the doorway for a beat, scanning the cafe like detectives on a case. Then one nudged the other and pointed at her. Emma's stomach did a slow, confused twist. They walked straight toward her, boots squeaking softly on the wood floor, their faces a mixture of determination and something else, anticipation. The taller one stopped beside her table and tilted her head. "Are you Miss Emma?" Emma blinked, lowering her cup. "Yes, I am." The little girl smiled with relief and motioned to her twin. "Good. My daddy's sorry he's late." Emma just stared. "I'm sorry, you're what?" "Daddy," the smaller one said, her voice sweet and firm. "He said he might be late. But we didn't want you to think he forgot." Emma's pulse tripped. She glanced around, half expecting some flustered father to come rushing in behind them, but the door stayed closed. "Girls," she said gently, leaning forward, "where is your dad?" The two exchanged a look, the kind kids share when they're deciding whether to tell the truth or stick to the plan. Finally, the taller one sighed, folding her small arms. "He doesn't know we're here." "What?" "We overheard him," the smaller one whispered conspiratorially. "He said he had an emergency at work and might miss his date, but we think that's silly. He needs to go on dates." Emma blinked again, speechless. The taller twin reached into her tiny purse and pulled out a folded napkin, handing it over with great ceremony. On it, in a child's careful handwriting, were 4 words, "My daddy's sorry he's late." Emma felt something inside her shift, something soft and disbelieving. She couldn't help it, she smiled. "Well," she said slowly, "that's very thoughtful of you too. But I'm not sure your dad will be happy when he finds out you, crashed his date." "We didn't crash it," the smaller one said earnestly. "We saved it." Her confidence was so absolute that Emma actually laughed, a sound she hadn't heard from herself all week. "What are your names?" she asked. "I'm Lily," said the taller one proudly. "And that's Millie." Emma nodded, amused. "Lily and Millie. Of course." They looked at each other and giggled. "We're twins," Millie added helpfully. "Really? I would never have guessed." The girls burst into another round of giggles. Emma motioned toward the empty seats. "Would you like to sit down? Maybe while you tell me more about this rescue mission?" Lily nodded solemnly. "We'd love to." But can we get hot chocolate first? Daddy says it's rude to talk about important things without warm drinks. Of course he does, Emma said, signaling the barista. As they waited, she studied them. Two mirror images of curiosity and confidence, curls springing like halos, pink jackets bright against the muted tones of the cafe. She wondered what kind of man raised children who walked into a stranger's life without fear. So, she said once the mugs arrived, why did you decide to come find me? Lily lifted her cup carefully, a whipped cream mustache forming instantly. Because Daddy doesn't laugh anymore. Millie nodded, her voice small but steady. He works too much. He stares at Mommy's picture at night. And when Aunt Clara told him about you, he looked scared but happy. We liked that. Emma's smile faltered. Aunt Clara? She used to be Mommy's best friend, Lily explained. She said you were nice and smart and that maybe you could make Daddy smile again. The words hit harder than she expected. Beneath their sweetness was something aching and raw, a family trying to find light again. Your mommy isn't. In heaven, Millie finished softly. Silence settled between them, tender and heavy. Emma's throat tightened. She reached across the table, brushing a stray curl from Millie's cheek. I'm so sorry. Millie nodded, eyes glistening but brave. Daddy says she's still with us. We just can't see her anymore. Something inside Emma cracked. She'd come here expecting awkward small talk, not two little girls teaching her about grief and hope in the same breath. Then the cafe door opened again. This time, a tall man stepped in, soaking wet, shoulders tense, eyes scanning the room like he'd lost something precious. When his gaze landed on their table, everything about him stopped. Lily. Millie. The girls froze. Oh, Lily whispered. He strode over, tan coat damp, tie loosened, exhaustion etched in every line of his face. But his eyes, gray-blue and weary, softened the moment they met Emma's. I am so sorry, he said, voice low, roughened by rain and disbelief. I swear I didn't. Emma raised a hand. It's okay. He looked down at his daughters, exasperation warring with relief. What did I tell you about leaving the house without Mrs. Ferguson? That emergencies require heroes, Lily offered. Millie nodded. We were heroes. Edward closed his eyes, muttering something under his breath, then looked at Emma again. This must be the strangest first impression of all time. Emma smiled softly. Actually, it's the best one I've had in years. And somehow, under the cafe lights and the smell of rain and cocoa, three strangers began the slow undoing of loneliness. One smile, one apology, one absurd twist of fate at a time. Outside, thunder rolled gently across the skyline, as if the city itself knew something important had just begun. Hours earlier, before the storm, Edward Wallace stood in the glass-walled conference room of his Midtown software firm, watching a progress bar crawl across the screen like a slow-moving regret. His tie was askew, his shirt sleeves rolled up, and his phone buzzed with reminders that felt like accusations. Date with Emma, 6:30 p.m. The words blinked on the screen, innocent and hopeful, like they belonged to someone else's life. Sir, the migration just crashed again, one of the junior engineers said, hovering by the doorway. The database rollback didn't stick. Edward exhaled, the kind of long breath that made his chest ache. Reboot the servers manually. Is Colin still in QA? Yes, but... Call him. Tell him to stay put until I say otherwise. He rubbed the back of his neck. The air in the room felt tight, humming with fluorescent fatigue and the faint smell of burnt coffee. A storm cloud pressed against the skyline outside. In another life, before Clara died, before his world folded in half, he might have loved that kind of rain. Tonight it only sounded like time running out. His watch read 6:07 p.m. He'd promised Diane Miller, Clara's college friend, that he would show up. She's wonderful, Ed, Diane had insisted. Strong, kind, honest. Just go meet her. No expectations. No expectations. As if expectations weren't the only things that kept him awake most nights. He'd agreed, half-heartedly, telling himself it was progress. Maybe it was time. Maybe he could learn to smile again. But now, standing under the cold glare of server lights, he could feel panic pressing against his ribs. He wanted to go. He really did. He'd even ironed a shirt the night before, something he hadn't done since Clara's funeral. But the crash changed everything. A data loss on the library security contract wasn't just inconvenient, it was a lawsuit waiting to happen. He couldn't walk out now, not with a team depending on him. He checked his phone again. 6:19 p.m. Maybe she'll wait. Then another voice, quieter, meaner. Maybe she won't. And maybe that's better. He sank into the nearest chair, staring at the blue glow of the monitors. He'd lost count of how many times he'd almost tried to move on. Each time he'd found a reason not to: work deadlines, the twin school events, exhaustion, guilt. But the real reason was simpler. Every time he tried, he felt like he was betraying Clara all over again. He remembered her laugh, that quick, musical sound that used to fill the house. He hadn't heard it in 2 years, not in real life, not even in dreams anymore. He pressed his palms against his eyes, fighting the sting behind them. "Get it together," he muttered. Behind him, the office door creaked open. "Daddy?" He turned. Lily stood there, curly hair damp from the drizzle, Millie right behind her clutching a stuffed bunny. They were supposed to be home with Mrs. Ferguson. "Girls, what are you doing here? You scared me half to death." "We called the front desk," Lily said matter-of-factly. "They said you were still working. Mrs. Ferguson let us ride with her. We brought dinner." Millie lifted a paper bag like proof. Edward's frustration melted into helpless affection. "Dinner, huh? You two are supposed to be in pajamas." "We wanted to see you before your date," Lily said, eyes bright. "Aunt Diane told us." Edward's stomach tightened. "That's grown-up business." "Mommy would want you to go," Millie whispered. That one sentence stopped him cold. He crouched down, suddenly unable to breathe properly. "Hey," he said softly. "You don't have to." "But you're nervous," Lily interrupted. "We heard you talking to yourself. You said, maybe she's better off if I don't show up." He winced. They had been listening. Of course they had. The twins heard everything. "I was just thinking out loud," he said. "It's been a long time since I've done something like this." Millie frowned, a tiny line appearing between her brows. "You make people safe, Daddy. That's your job. But who keeps you safe?" Edward swallowed the lump in his throat. "You two do." "Then we'll help with the date," Lily said confidently. "We'll fix it." He laughed, ruffling her curls. "Please don't fix anything. Just go home, eat dinner, and don't make Mrs. Ferguson panic." They promised, all innocence and crossed fingers. He didn't notice the whisper between them as he turned back to the servers, the whisper that began their mission. By the time he finally shut down his laptop, the office was empty except for the steady hum of the air vents. 7:18 p.m. He missed it. His chest sank under the weight of inevitability. He typed a quick apology text to Diane, erased it, rewrote it, and deleted it again. What could he even say? "Sorry, got stuck in a database crash and couldn't make it to my first step back into humanity?" He gathered his jacket, shut off the lights, and stepped into the hallway just as thunder cracked. The sound rolled through the building like a warning. He didn't know yet that 2 tiny agents of chaos had already rewritten his night. The cafe's soft glow came into view around 7:45. He hadn't meant to drive there. His car had just turned in that direction, like some subconscious part of him couldn't let go. Maybe he wanted to see it empty, to close the loop, to prove to himself that he'd made the right choice by not showing up. Instead, he walked through the door and found his daughters laughing at a table with a woman who made the entire room look different. Emma Robinson. He didn't know her yet, but something about the calm way she looked at him, like she already understood the chaos that was his life, made his breath catch. Her smile wasn't forced. It was kind, curious, and tired in the same way his was. And his girls. Lord, his girls looked so proud. He'd been mortified, yes, but also stunned by how naturally Emma handled it all. No panic, no judgment, just warmth. He could still hear her laughter, see the way she'd leaned forward to listen to the twins' stories, the way she'd said, "It's the best first impression I've had in years." Driving home later with the girls asleep in the back seat, the city blurred past in streaks of gold and rain. Her laugh lingered, playing back in fragments. He tried to shake it off, but it clung to him like the scent of her perfume, something faint and citrusy, impossible to forget. He'd expected awkward silence or polite pity. Instead, he'd found light. For the first time since Clara's death, he hadn't felt like a broken thing trying to blend in with the living. He parked outside the house, engine ticking in the rain. The porch light cast a warm square across the driveway. For a long time, he just sat there, listening to the twins breathe in the back seat, his heart doing something strange, something dangerous. Oh. Inside, he carried them upstairs one by one, tucking them into their beds. Millie mumbled in her sleep, "She was pretty, Daddy." "I know, honey," he whispered. She was. As he reached to turn off the lamp, something white peeked out from Lily's small fist. He eased it free carefully, a napkin folded into a neat square. Across it, in a child's uneven scrawl, were the words, "Miss Emma." A crooked heart sat beneath it. Edward sat there for a long moment, napkin trembling slightly between his fingers. He felt ridiculous, grown man, head of a firm, undone by a piece of cafe paper. But the ache that had ruled him for 2 years felt different tonight, softer, manageable. He looked at the twins, their curls fanned across the pillows, and a smile crept across his face. It felt foreign at first, like an old muscle being used again. "What have you done, angels?" he whispered. The thunder outside faded to a low murmur. Somewhere across town, Emma Robinson was probably wiping away the last of her mascara and wondering why two strangers in pink jackets wouldn't leave her mind. And neither of them knew it yet, but the message delivered that rainy night had already rewritten both their stories. What would you have done if two children showed up at your table claiming their father was sorry he's late? Would you have stayed or walked away? Tell me what your heart says. Emma Robinson didn't walk away, but she also didn't sleep that night. Long after the rain had stopped whispering against her window, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling as her mind replayed the entire evening. The nervous giggles, the hot chocolate mustaches, the twin sisters who spoke like they'd rehearsed saving their father's heart. And then there was him, Edward Wallace. The man who'd walked into the cafe looking like he'd just stepped out of a storm and into something he didn't believe he deserved. She could still see the way he'd looked at his daughters, half fury, half awe, and the way that expression softened when he looked at her. Not attraction exactly. Something quieter. Recognition maybe. Like they'd both been waiting for someone to understand what exhaustion really looked like. By morning, she'd convinced herself to forget it was cute. Unexpected. But she wasn't in the business of rescuing widowed fathers with perfect dimples and two matchmaking daughters. Her life was simple. Deadlines, pitches, travel, sleep, repeat. Emotional involvement didn't fit anywhere on her calendar. She told herself that over coffee, over lunch, during a client meeting that she barely registered, and again that evening when her phone buzzed across the counter, displaying an unknown number. For reasons she couldn't explain, her heart still skipped. She almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. But curiosity, that stubborn thing, got the better of her. Hello. Hi. The voice on the other end was deep, hesitant, like someone who'd practiced what to say 100 times and still wasn't sure it would come out right. It's, Edward Wallace. From last night. Emma froze. His name sounded softer spoken aloud, weighted with sincerity. Edward, she said slowly, tasting the word. I was wondering if you'd call or if your daughters were going to do it for you again. A chuckle, quiet but real. They tried. I confiscated their crayons before they wrote a letter. I'm relieved. I don't think I could survive another pink jacket ambush. That makes two of us. He paused, the humor fading into something more vulnerable. I just wanted to apologize, Miss Robinson. That's not how a first impression was supposed to go. I owe you at least a proper cup of coffee. One that doesn't involve small children and moral panic. Emma smiled despite herself. I'd say it was the most memorable date I've ever had. He exhaled softly, the sound carrying something that felt like gratitude. Then maybe that's a good start. There was silence for a moment. Not uncomfortable, just the kind of quiet that comes when two people realize they don't hate the sound of each other breathing. Saturday? He asked. Same cafe. 6:30. No emergencies. No tiny bodyguards, I promise. Her practical side screamed to decline. It had been chaos. Sweet, unplanned chaos, but chaos nonetheless. Still, she found herself saying, All right, Mr. Wallace. Let's try this again. Edward, he corrected gently. Please. After last night, I think we've earned first names. Fine, she said, smiling into the phone. Saturday, Edward. Saturday, Emma. The call ended, but the echo of his voice lingered long after. Saturday came faster than she expected. She spent half the day pretending not to care what to wear. She wasn't dressing up for him, she told herself, just for herself. Still, she changed twice, maybe 3 times. When she walked into Willow and Birch that evening, Edward was already there. This time he wasn't late. He stood as soon as he saw her, a quiet smile easing onto his face. Emma, he said as though her name itself was a relief. He looked different out of the storm, blue shirt neatly pressed, eyes clear but cautious. The kind of man who didn't know if he was allowed to relax yet. Edward. She sat, placing her purse beside her. No small bodyguards today? He chuckled. They made me pinky swear I'd behave. I'm glad. I'm not sure I could handle another moral rescue operation. The waiter came. 2 coffees. 1 black, 1 oat milk latte. Conversation started awkwardly, then began to thaw. So, Emma said, stirring her drink. Tell me about your company. The girls mentioned you build things? He nodded, leaning back. Software architecture. I design systems to keep information safe. Not as exciting as it sounds. That's debatable. I've met plenty of people who build walls for a living. Some of them just aren't made of code. He looked at her curiously, then smiled. And you're in marketing, right? Diane said you're brilliant. Diane says that about anyone she wants to set up with a friend. I think she undersold you. She raised an eyebrow. You barely know me. I know enough, he said softly, and for a heartbeat neither of them moved. Silence again, but this time it was charged. Not awkward, but alive. Edward looked down, tracing the rim of his coffee cup. It's strange. I didn't expect to like you. Emma laughed. That's one way to charm someone. No, I mean, he hesitated, searching for the right words. I didn't expect to like anyone. Not after Clara. Her laughter faded. Your wife. He nodded. She was the kind of person who filled rooms without realizing it. After she died, it felt like all the sound in the world went out. I couldn't stand silence, but I couldn't fill it either. The girls kept me moving but not living. Does that make sense? It does, Emma said quietly. More than you think. He studied her. You've lost someone too? Not in the same way, she said, looking down. Just faith maybe. I stopped believing in lasting things. He nodded, eyes soft with understanding. Maybe that's something we both forgot how to do. Their conversation drifted between light and heavy, between laughter about the twins' antics and the kind of quiet that only honesty can create. Edward talked about Lily's fascination with bugs, Millie's obsession with ballet, how they built a memory box for their mother and sometimes hid it under his pillow because they were afraid he'd forget. When he spoke of Clara, his voice didn't break, it softened. Grief had dulled its sharp edge but left an ache that hummed under every word. I still talk to her sometimes, he admitted. Not out loud, not really. Just in my head. Especially when I don't know what I'm doing. Emma's eyes glistened. And does she answer? Not in words. Just moments. The girls' laughter. Rain on the roof. Sometimes I think she sends signs. Like last Tuesday night? He smiled faintly. Something like that. They both laughed quietly. For the first time in years, Edward felt the strange, dizzy warmth of connection. Not the forced kind from polite conversation, but the rare kind where silence feels safe. As the cafe lights dimmed and other customers drifted out, they lingered, talking about everything and nothing. The best coffee in the city, their favorite movies, how Lily once tried to microwave a cupcake for science. When Emma laughed, Edward thought he could live inside that sound forever. But the spell broke when her phone buzzed. A client email, urgent and impatient. She sighed, sliding it away. That's my world calling. Do you need to go? Not yet, she said, surprising herself. He smiled. Good. A soft quiet settled over them, full of unspoken things. Edward, she said finally. Yeah. I'm glad you called. He looked at her, that careful hope flickering again in his eyes. So am I. They left the cafe together, standing under the streetlight as rain began again in tiny silver threads. He offered his umbrella. She declined. I like the rain, she said. It hides the things you don't know how to say. He watched her walk away, heart doing that dangerous thing again, hope beating louder than guilt. Back home, two small silhouettes crouched behind the banister, whispering excitedly as their father came in. Did she like him? Lily asked. She must have, Millie whispered back. He's smiling like Mommy used to make him. Edward passed the stairs, pretending not to notice their conspiratorial giggles. On the kitchen counter, a note waited in pink marker. We didn't fix it. We started it. Love, your angels. He laughed softly, shaking his head, the sound echoing into the quiet house. Upstairs, he found them pretending to be asleep, their twin faces peaceful under the nightlight. He kissed their foreheads. You two might just be geniuses, he murmured. Downstairs, he checked his phone one last time. A message from Emma blinked. Thank you for tonight. Let's do dinner next time. And for the first time in years, Edward didn't feel the weight of late. He felt right on time. If you were in Emma's shoes, would you have said yes to that second meeting after everything that happened? Or would you protect your peace and walk away? Comment what your heart would do. The following week felt like a stretch of quiet, unspoken anticipation. Emma worked through meetings and presentations with her usual composure, but her mind kept drifting, to coffee steam and soft laughter, to Edward's nervous half-smile, to the way he'd looked at her like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to be happy yet. Every time she caught herself thinking about him, she'd shake it off, muttering, "Focus, Robinson," as if discipline could silence curiosity. Edward wasn't faring much better. At his firm, he caught himself checking his phone between client calls. He'd replay snippets of their last conversation. The moment she'd said, "I'm glad you called," as though it were a line from a song he couldn't stop humming. Even his employees noticed the difference. He wasn't smiling exactly, but there was a lightness in him now, like someone who'd remembered how to breathe. By Friday afternoon, he'd made up his mind. He texted her, "Dinner. My place. Tomorrow night. No servers. No cafe noise. Just good food and conversation. Deal." Her reply came a minute later. "Only if there's dessert. Deal." He didn't tell the twins until Saturday morning, his first mistake. The reaction was instant chaos. "You're cooking?" Lily gasped, eyes wide with both fear and fascination. Millie added, "But you burn toast, Daddy." "I'm improving," he protested. Besides, I have recipes now. Real ones. The twins exchanged a look that could only mean disaster. We're helping. No, no, no. It's a family mission, Lily declared, grabbing a notepad. Operation Impress Miss Emma. Edward groaned. You two are not. But it was too late. They'd already bolted for the kitchen, dragging their aprons behind them like battle flags. By 6 o'clock, the mission was in full swing. The kitchen looked like a flower bomb had gone off. The twins insisted on being servers, wearing bow ties over their pajamas and taking turns announcing each stage of dinner prep with exaggerated flair. Course 1. Millie shouted, carrying a tray of bread rolls like they were royal delicacies. Half of them were still half frozen. Course 2. Lily added, dramatically uncovering a salad that was mostly croutons and too much ranch dressing. Edward tried to maintain order, following a recipe for rosemary roast he'd found online. The oven timer beeped, the smoke alarm beeped louder, and before long he was waving a dish towel under the detector while the girls laughed so hard they nearly fell over. You were right, Emma said from the doorway, trying not to laugh. Edward spun, startled. He hadn't even heard her knock. She stood there, smiling in a fitted blue dress, curls soft around her face. The smell of something slightly burnt hung in the air, but her smile made it irrelevant. You're early, he said, tossing the towel aside. I was afraid you'd forget dessert. Lily appeared out of nowhere, throwing her hands up. Miss Emma, you're here. Welcome to Operation Impress. Operation what now? Emma asked, laughing. Millie ran up and handed her a handmade menu scribbled in crayon. Welcome, Miss Emma. Tonight's feast bread, maybe warm, salad, lots of ranch, roast probably not burnt, dessert still thinking. Emma giggled, clutching the menu like it was gold. This is the best restaurant I've ever seen. Edward gave her a helpless grin. Please tell me you have low standards. Tragically low, she teased. I work in marketing. Dinner was chaos, and somehow perfect. The roast was a little overdone, the salad overdressed, and the twins insisted on calling her Madam Guest in accents that switched between British and French. Edward tried to apologize for everything, but Emma wouldn't let him. Honestly, she said between laughter, I think the burnt bits are the best part. That's called emotional support lying, he said, but his smile gave him away. Lily poured her juice too fast and it splashed across the table, soaking napkins and dripping onto the floor. Oops. Before Edward could react, Emma jumped up, grabbing a towel. No worries, she said, crouching beside the girl. See? Easy fix. Millie leaned in, whispering, Daddy usually freaks out. Not tonight, Edward said, smiling down at them. Tonight we're just improvising. Like jazz. Lily said proudly, and Emma laughed. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't planned. But for Edward, it felt alive, like the house had exhaled after holding its breath for too long. After dinner, the twins dragged out blankets to build a movie fort in the living room. Edward tried to insist that Emma shouldn't have to watch animated chaos, but she waved him off. I haven't built a fort in years, she said, helping tape a blanket to the sofa. Within minutes, the room had transformed into a glowing cocoon of pillows and fairy lights. The twins dove inside, clutching popcorn bowls, while Edward and Emma sat just outside, side by side, their shoulders brushing occasionally as the movie flickered. When Lily started an impromptu pillow fight, Emma didn't hesitate. She grabbed a cushion and swung back, laughing as feathers filled the air. Edward's protest died on his lips the moment he saw her laugh, head tilted back, eyes bright, alive. For a heartbeat he just watched. The sound of her laughter reached something inside him that he hadn't touched in years. It wasn't just attraction. It was relief. The realization that his heart still worked, that he could feel warmth again without guilt. He joined the chaos, catching a pillow midair and tossing it back gently at Millie. Truce, he called, but his grin betrayed him. By the time the twins finally surrendered, the living room looked like a cloud had exploded. Lily yawned mid-giggle, Millie rubbing her eyes. Bedtime, soldiers, Edward said. Ah, Daddy, 5 more minutes, Millie begged. No negotiations tonight. Come on. He carried one twin up each arm like he used to when they were toddlers, their heads heavy on his shoulders. Emma followed quietly, smiling as she watched him tuck them in. He brushed their curls back, kissed their foreheads, whispered something only they could hear. Standing in the doorway, Emma felt her chest ache in a way that was both painful and beautiful. He wasn't just a father, he was a man still learning how to live without half his heart, yet doing it anyway. When he turned and caught her watching, he looked almost embarrassed. They're supposed to be asleep by 8. I've never been good at enforcing it. They're happy, Emma said softly. That's better than rules. He smiled faintly. You're good with them. I like kids, she said. I just never thought they'd like me back this fast. They have good instincts. Their eyes held for a moment too long, the air thickening with something unsaid. "Coffee?" he asked, breaking it gently. "Sure." They returned downstairs, the quiet hum of the house wrapping around them. The mess from dinner still lingered, crumbs, sauce smudges, a burned roasting pan, but neither of them cared. It felt lived in. They talked softly over coffee, the conversation drifting between teasing and silence. At one point, Emma traced the rim of her mug, glancing toward the family photos on the counter. One in particular caught her eye, a picture of Edward, much younger, holding Clara with the twins as babies. Everyone was laughing, the kind of captured happiness that felt eternal. Her hand hesitated near it, then pulled back. "She was beautiful," she said quietly. "She was," he said. "Still is in my head." The admission hung between them, gentle and honest. Emma nodded. "That's allowed." He looked at her then, gratitude softening his expression. They finished their coffee, the night drawing to a comfortable close. Emma stood to leave, helping gather dishes, ignoring his half-hearted protests. "I make a mess, I help clean it," she said. "Then you'll be stuck here forever?" he joked. "Maybe that's not such a bad deal." He froze, then smiled faintly. "I'll remember you said that." At the door, he handed her her coat. Their hands brushed, just barely, but it sent a pulse through both of them that neither could hide. "Drive safe," he said quietly. "I will. Thank you for dinner, Chef Wallace. Burnt roast and all." He laughed softly. "Next time, I'll try not to set off the alarm." "Next time," she teased. "If you're brave enough." She turned toward the door, and that's when it happened, a soft thud behind her. A photo frame slipping off the counter, landing face down on the floor. She bent to pick it up before he could move. The glass hadn't cracked, but when she turned it over, her chest tightened. Clara's smile stared up at her, captured mid-laugh, sunlight tangled in her hair. She froze, then handed it back carefully. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He took it, his fingers brushing hers. "Don't be. It's part of the house." But his voice was unsteady. And hers was quiet when she replied, "So is she." She smiled faintly, then left before either of them could say more. Edward stood there long after the door closed, staring at the photo in his hands, the echo of her footsteps still soft in his chest. What would you have felt in Emma's place? Jealousy, compassion, or fear of stepping into a ghost story? Tell me what you think. The house felt different after she left, too quiet, too aware of itself. Edward set the photo back on the counter carefully, straightening it twice before realizing he was trembling. The smile frozen in that frame haunted him, not because he wanted to forget it, but because he didn't know how to remember without guilt. Clara's laughter, her perfume, her impossible optimism, they still lingered in the corners of this home. He could almost hear her voice teasing him, "You always overcook the roast, Ed." He smiled faintly, then exhaled, the sound catching somewhere between grief and relief. For the first time, another woman's laughter had echoed here too, and it hadn't felt wrong. Just strange. Like the house itself had been holding its breath for years and finally exhaled when Emma walked in. Upstairs, the twins slept soundly, their small snores a comfort. Edward poured himself a glass of water, but the reflection in the window caught him off guard. A man halfway between two worlds. The one that ended too soon and the one that hadn't quite begun. Across town, Emma couldn't sleep either. She kept seeing that photo, the woman in it radiant, alive, frozen mid-laugh. Clara Wallace. The name she'd only heard in fragments. Emma set her phone aside and curled under the blanket, whispering into the quiet, "What am I doing?" She wasn't the type to fall easily. She'd built her life on discipline, on control. Feelings were things you marketed, not surrendered to. But that night, watching Edward with his daughters, seeing the gentleness beneath his exhaustion, it did something to her. It cracked something open. And yet, guilt clung like a shadow. She wasn't naive. This was a man who had loved deeply and lost terribly. That kind of love didn't just vanish. Could she ever stand in a place where a ghost still lived? Her chest tightened as she imagined being compared to Clara, a woman she'd never met but already felt she couldn't compete with. Still, when Edward texted the next morning, "Would you like to join us for brunch?" The girls insist. They might be more persuasive than me. She didn't hesitate. "I'd love to." By noon, the Wallace kitchen was alive again. Millie and Lily sat at the table, their hair still messy from sleep, dipping strawberries in whipped cream while Edward tried to make pancakes. "Miss Emma's coming," Millie announced between bites. "Daddy said she is." "Then we have to clean," Lily said, jumping off the chair. "Mommy used to say guests deserve sparkle." Edward smiled faintly, stirring batter. "She did say that." When Emma arrived, the girls ran straight to the door, practically tackling her. "You came back." "I did," Emma said, laughing as they each grabbed one of her hands. "How could I say no to my favorite waitresses?" Edward appeared from the kitchen, flour on his shirt. I promise today's menu involves 0 smoke alarms. That's a bold promise, Emma teased. Statistically risky, I know. They ate together, pancakes, strawberries, laughter. The twins filled every silence with chatter about school friends and the time Daddy tried to braid our hair. Traumatic experience, Edward murmured. Historical disaster, Lily corrected. Emma laughed so hard she nearly spilled her juice. And in that moment she realized something simple but profound. This was what healing looked like. Not in grand gestures or poetic confessions, but in burnt pancakes and honest laughter. After brunch, the girls disappeared upstairs to play fashion show, leaving Emma and Edward at the table. For a while they just sat in easy quiet. Then Emma spoke softly, tracing her finger along the rim of her glass. She was beautiful, Edward. Clara. He looked up, surprised but not uncomfortable. Yeah, she really was. I'm sorry if I made things awkward last night, she said. I didn't mean to. You didn't. He sighed, leaning back. You just reminded me that I still talk about her like she's coming back. Emma's voice softened. That's not wrong, Slough. It doesn't disappear just because someone does. He studied her for a moment, eyes thoughtful. You sound like someone who knows loss. She smiled faintly. Not like yours. But I've lost things I thought I'd have forever. Trust, people, pieces of myself. That counts, he said quietly. The silence that followed wasn't heavy, it was full of understanding. Edward stared at his hands as if unsure whether to speak again. But something in Emma's calm gaze invited him to. It was a car accident, he said finally. A year after the twins were born. She was driving home from her mother's. A truck didn't stop. Emma's breath caught. Edward. He continued, voice low, steady but breaking at the edges. I didn't even say goodbye properly. I was at work. She called to say she was picking up milk on the way home. That's the last thing I heard from her. No. And then a police officer was at the door. Emma reached across the table, her hand brushing his. He didn't pull away. I stopped hearing music after that, he said. Everything went quiet. Even the girls' laughter. I went through the motions, school runs, work, pretending to smile, but it all felt like echo. Her voice was barely above a whisper. You've done so much, Edward. They're happy. You kept them safe. I don't know about happy, he said. They still ask about her sometimes. Especially Millie. I tell them stories. But I think they remember more than I want them to. Right on cue, small footsteps echoed down the stairs. Daddy? Lily called. Can we show Miss Emma our memory box? Edward smiled tiredly. You can. The twins came running, carrying a small wooden box decorated with stickers and scribbles. They placed it on the table and opened it proudly. Inside were little keepsakes, a seashell necklace, a folded concert ticket, a pressed daisy, a photo of Clara holding them as babies. Millie picked up the flower. Mommy said daisies mean forever. Emma's throat tightened. She was right. Lily held up a small folded note. This one's my favorite. Edward nodded. She wrote it for them before the surgery. Back when she thought she'd be fine. Emma read the faded handwriting aloud. If you ever miss me, listen to Daddy's song. He'll keep me alive in the music. Edward's eyes glistened. She used to write songs. Little lullabies. Sing one, Millie said suddenly. Oh, sweetheart, not now. Please? Lily pleaded. Miss Emma hasn't heard it. Emma looked at him gently. Only if you want to. He hesitated, then nodded. All right. Just one verse. He stood, clearing his throat. His voice, though quiet, carried through the house, steady, low, raw. When the night feels longer than days we knew, and the stars forget to shine through, close your eyes, my love, and you'll find me there, in the song, in the light, in the air. His voice cracked on the last line, and without thinking, Emma softly joined in, finishing it with him. The girls clapped, giggling, but Edward didn't laugh. His eyes glistened, his breath uneven. He sat down, pressing his palms together. I haven't sung that in years. Emma's voice was a whisper. You should. It's beautiful. It was hers, he said. Everything beautiful was hers. No, she said quietly. Not everything. He looked at her then, and something unspoken passed between them, something dangerous and fragile. Millie yawned, leaning against Emma's arm. Miss Emma, you smell like flowers. Emma smiled, brushing the girl's curls back. That's a good thing, right? Like Mommy, Lily murmured sleepily. Edward froze. His eyes met Emma's, full of something like gratitude and grief tangled together. He cleared his throat softly. All right, bedtime, ladies. Go on upstairs. Once the twins were gone, silence filled the hallway again. The kind that isn't empty, just heavy with everything that's been left unsaid. Emma stood to leave, her heart pounding. Edward, thank you for sharing that. Really? He nodded. Thank you for staying. I didn't feel like I could leave, she admitted. He smiled faintly, but his voice cracked. That's exactly what she used to say. Her hand brushed his as she turned toward the door. Then maybe I was meant to hear it. When she left, Edward sat in the quiet, head in his hands, shoulders trembling. The song still echoed in the air, but now it hurt differently, not like loss but like love trying to find its way back in. He realized then, painfully, beautifully, that he was falling for her. And that scared him more than any silence ever had. If you were Emma, standing in the middle of someone else's grief, hearing their love sung into the air, would you stay and risk falling or walk away before it's too late? Tell me what your heart would do. The next few days passed in a blur that felt both new and dangerously familiar. For the first time in years, Edward caught himself humming at work. Not full songs, not anything intentional, just quiet fragments, echoes of the lullaby Clara wrote, now tangled with Emma's voice in his memory. It was strange how easily she'd become part of his days. But life had its own timing, and it rarely asked for permission before interrupting happiness. By Wednesday morning, his calm was shattered. Edward, Colin, his senior engineer, burst into the office, eyes wide. We've got a breach. Edward's stomach dropped. Define breach. Someone exploited the security patch from last quarter. Client data's compromised. We've got press inquiries, legal's already panicking. Edward's pulse hammered in his ears. This couldn't be happening, not now, not when things were finally settling. Contain it, he ordered. Shut down every endpoint connection until we isolate the source. It's too late. It's spreading. For a second, he saw his reflection in the glass wall, jaw tight, eyes tired, the same man who had once missed a blind date because duty chained him to his desk. Not again. He grabbed his phone, hesitating for only a moment before calling her. Emma was in the middle of a client presentation when her phone buzzed. She almost ignored it until she saw his name. Edward Wallace. The man who never called during business hours unless something was wrong. She excused herself, stepping into the hallway. Edward? What's happened? His voice was clipped, strained. We've got a crisis. Data breach. The press already knows. Her instinct kicked in. How bad? Bad enough to undo a year's worth of trust. I know this isn't your mess, but... He paused, then said quietly, I could use your brain, Emma. It wasn't the words themselves that made her leave everything behind. It was his voice. The same man who carried so much weight for everyone else, finally asking for help. Text me the address, she said. I'm on my way. When she arrived at Wallace Systems, the air buzzed with panic. Employees whispered in corners, screens flickered with graphs and data logs, and the tension was thick enough to choke on. Edward was at the center of it all, sleeves rolled up, hair disheveled, barking orders while typing code faster than anyone she'd seen. He looked exhausted, but there was fire in his eyes, the kind that came from desperation. He turned when he saw her, surprise flickering into relief. You actually came. I told you, she said, setting her purse down. I'm not afraid of chaos. Where do you need me? He motioned to a workstation. We're getting hammered online. The breach is public. Clients are threatening to pull contracts. Then we take control of the narrative, she said, already opening her laptop. Within minutes, she was drafting statements, fielding questions, guiding his PR staff on what not to say. Her calm authority sliced through the panic. Don't over-explain. Don't promise fixes you can't deliver. Be transparent, be human, be immediate. Edward watched, half in awe. She wasn't just brilliant, she was fearless. She handled angry reporters, irate clients, and a panicked intern with the same poise. At one point, when his team hesitated to approve her phrasing, she turned to him. Trust me. And he did. Without question. Hours later, when the first wave of press began shifting from catastrophic to contained, the office exhaled. Emma leaned back, stretching. There. You've got breathing room. Edward smiled, an exhausted, grateful kind of smile. You're a miracle. I'm an overworked marketing exec with good typing speed, she said, but her grin gave her away. He chuckled. You have no idea what you just saved. She glanced around at the team still bustling. Actually, I think I do. For the rest of the day, they worked side by side, fixing statements, coordinating updates, drinking too much coffee. Somewhere between deadlines and tension, something softer bloomed. When their hands brushed reaching for the same mouse, the moment lingered too long. When their shoulders touched while leaning over a shared screen, neither moved away. By midnight, the office was nearly empty. Only the low hum of machines and the city lights flickering beyond the glass. Emma looked up from her laptop. I can't remember the last time I worked this late and didn't hate it. Same, he said. Usually it feels like punishment. Tonight it just feels alive. She smiled. That's because we're saving the world one press release at a time. He laughed quietly. Or because I'm sitting next to you. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Emma blinked, then smiled faintly. Careful, Mr. Wallace. You're flirting on company property. He looked at her for a long moment, voice lower now. Maybe I am. Silence followed, thick, electric, fragile. He didn't touch her, but he didn't need to. The air between them burned softly, charged with every unspoken thing. Outside, rain began to fall again, streaking the glass in silver threads. You should get some rest, he said finally, standing. It's been a long day. So should you, she replied, closing her laptop. Can't. Crisis mode doesn't sleep. Then I'll stay until you do. He turned to her, surprised. You don't have to. I know, she said simply. But I want to. Something in him shifted then, quietly, dangerously. They stayed there another hour, drafting strategy notes. He found himself watching her between keystrokes, the way she tucked a curl behind her ear, the concentration in her eyes. He hadn't felt this alive since Clara. But even thinking that name made guilt stir, so he shoved it away. When they finally called it a night, the office felt warmer somehow. They walked to the elevator in silence, the air charged again with that impossible mix of exhaustion and attraction. Thank you, Emma, he said as the doors opened. For everything. You don't have to thank me, she said. We're in this together. The elevator doors closed, sealing them in a small, quiet box of neon reflections. Their eyes met. For a moment he thought he might kiss her. The thought terrified him. Then the doors opened, breaking the spell. Good night, Edward, she whispered. Good night, Emma. The next morning whispers started. Did you hear? She stayed till 2 a.m. Marketing exec, huh? Sure looks like special treatment to me. Classic. He's lonely, she's ambitious. By lunchtime, half the company was buzzing with speculation. Edward heard fragments as he walked the halls. The gossip wasn't cruel, just poisonous enough. At first he ignored it. But when one of his junior staff nervously mentioned a client had concerns about bias, something inside him snapped. He'd seen what rumors could do. He couldn't let her reputation be shredded because of him. When she came by that afternoon with updated press notes, he barely looked up. Leave them on the desk, he said shortly. Emma frowned. You okay? Just tired. Edward, talk to me. He hesitated, then forced the words out. Maybe it's better if we don't work together anymore. Or see each other. At least not for a while. She froze. What? There's talk. People are saying things. About us. About why you're here. So what? She snapped, hurt flashing across her face. We know the truth. Sometimes that's not enough, he said quietly. I can't risk your reputation, or my company's. The same words. The same tone. History repeating itself. She took a slow breath, but her voice trembled. You know what this feels like? Sitting alone, waiting again. And you telling me work matters more. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. Don't, she said softly. You had a choice this time, Edward. And you still chose fear. Then she turned and walked out, her heels echoing down the hallway, each step sounding like a door closing. He stood there, helpless, watching her disappear behind the glass doors. For a moment, it was 2 years ago all over again, the sound of goodbye, the weight of loss. Except this time he was the one who caused it. Emma didn't look back as she left the building. The city lights blurred behind her tears. She promised herself she'd never let someone make her feel small again, but somehow he'd managed it without even raising his voice. And the worst part? She wasn't angry. She just hurt. Because she knew what he was really afraid of, feeling something real again. Would you have forgiven Edward for pulling away to protect you? Or would you walk away too tired of being the one who waits? Tell me what your heart would do. The days that followed were quiet in all the worst ways. For Emma, silence became a language she didn't want to understand. She worked late, threw herself into campaigns, pretended her heart wasn't somewhere else entirely. Her phone stayed stubbornly still, no calls, no messages. The part of her that wanted to hate him couldn't find the strength. Because how do you hate someone who's drowning and still trying to protect you from the waves? For Edward, the silence was torture. The office that had once hummed with her laughter now felt like a museum. Sterile, airless, wrong. Every time he passed the glass conference room where they'd worked side by side, he felt that same ache, the one that came from breaking something that wasn't meant to be broken. The twins noticed before he said a word. Daddy, why are you sad again? Millie asked one night at dinner, her fork idle in her hand. I'm not sad, he lied. Just tired. You look like the day Mommy's favorite song stopped, Lily said softly. Edward blinked hard, the words hitting deeper than he expected. I just made a mistake, he admitted. Then fix it, Millie said simply. He smiled faintly. It's not that easy. Why not? Because sometimes when you care about someone, you hurt them even when you don't mean to. The girls looked at each other, then back at him. Then you have to say sorry, Lily declared. And maybe sing, Millie added wisely. Girls like songs. He laughed, then the first real laugh in days. You two should write a parenting book. Lily shrugged. We just watch movies. 3 nights later, Edward found himself standing outside an old brick apartment complex on the east side of town, clutching a takeout coffee cup he hadn't even drunk from. He wasn't sure how he'd ended up there, only that he couldn't stay away any longer. He'd called twice that day, both times hanging up before the voicemail beep. Now he stood under the drizzle, rehearsing apologies he didn't know how to say. Through the lobby window he spotted her, Emma, stepping out of the elevator, hair tied back, her expression distant. She was heading for the stairs that led to the rooftop terrace. He hesitated only a second before following. The metal door creaked open, spilling him into a wash of cool night air. The city stretched below, silver and restless, lights flickering like heartbeats. Emma stood near the edge, her coat pulled tight, her gaze lost somewhere between the skyline and the stars. She turned when she heard his footsteps. Edward. Her voice was cautious, tired. What are you doing here? I needed to see you, he said, breath misting in the cold. I couldn't let it end like that. She crossed her arms. It already did. He shook his head slowly. It doesn't have to. Really? She said, the hurt sharp in her tone. Because it sure felt final when you told me to walk away. I waited for you, Edward. Twice. Once at that cafe and again in your office. And both times you chose something else. He took a step closer, his voice low but firm. I didn't choose work. I chose fear. She blinked, thrown by his honesty. I was scared, he continued, words tumbling out now. Not of the gossip or the company or even what people might think. I was scared of this. He gestured between them. Of what I feel when I look at you. Because the last time I felt something this real, I lost it in a heartbeat. And I don't know if I can survive that twice. Emma's throat tightened. So you punished me for being the first person to make you feel again? He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I thought I was protecting you. From me. From all of this. Edward, she said softly, stepping forward now. You don't get to decide what hurts me. You don't get to decide what I can handle. You just left. He swallowed hard, his voice breaking. You think I wanted to? I wake up every morning hearing her voice, wondering if loving someone else means I've forgotten her. That's what I'm running from, not you. Her memory. The idea that if I move forward, I'm erasing what came before. Emma looked at him for a long moment, eyes glistening. You're not erasing her, she said quietly. You're proving she taught you how to love in the first place. He stared at her then, something shifting behind his tired eyes, something that looked like understanding. She continued, voice trembling. You're not the only one who's scared, Edward. You lost someone. I lost myself. For years, I built walls, buried my heart in work, convinced myself I didn't need anyone. Then you and those little girls came along and reminded me what laughter sounds like. That's terrifying too. Because if I let this in, if I let you in, and it falls apart. She stopped, unable to finish. He stepped closer, close enough for her to feel the warmth radiating off him. Emma, he said softly. Love didn't die with her. It just waited. Her breath caught. It waited, he repeated, voice raw now, for someone brave enough to walk into a cafe alone. For someone patient enough to listen to my daughter's chaos. For someone kind enough to see the broken parts and stay anyway. It waited for you. She blinked, tears spilling freely now, and for the first time he didn't look away. Edward. He reached up, brushing a tear from her cheek. I can't promise I'll do everything right. But I can promise this, I won't let fear make me late again. The city wind moved around them, cold but alive. She looked up at him, her eyes searching as if trying to decide whether to believe him. Then don't talk, she whispered. Just prove it. And before either could think, he leaned in. The kiss wasn't perfect. It was hesitant, trembling, full of everything they'd been holding back. But it was real, undeniably real. It felt like exhale after years of holding breath, like coming home after getting lost too long. When they finally pulled apart, Emma's forehead rested against his chest, both of them breathing unevenly. He laughed softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You know, this isn't how I pictured it. How did you picture it? She asked, smiling faintly. Less rooftop. More rational conversation. She chuckled, her voice muffled against him. Where's the fun in that? They stood there in silence for a long time, watching the city pulse below. For once, neither needed words. The world had gone quiet but not empty, just full in a different way. When she finally pulled back, she looked up at him seriously. You can't keep apologizing for surviving her, Edward. You loved her. You can love again. Those two things don't cancel each other out. He nodded, the truth of it settling deep. And you can stop punishing yourself for being strong. You don't have to prove you don't need anyone. She smiled faintly. Maybe I already did. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining easily, naturally, like it had always been meant to happen this way. Below them, sirens echoed in the distance, the hum of traffic rising like a low melody. Above, the stars blurred behind thin clouds, indifferent to the chaos below. Emma, he said softly. Oh, thank you for waiting. She looked at him with a mix of amusement and tenderness. I didn't have much choice. Two little angels wouldn't stop talking about you. He laughed quietly, shaking his head. Remind me to ground them indefinitely. Don't you dare, she said, smiling now. They're the reason we're here. He nodded slowly, eyes full of something that felt dangerously close to peace. They kissed again, this time slower, deeper as the city stretched out around them. It wasn't the passionate rush of two people colliding, but the steady rhythm of two souls finally finding their timing. When they parted, he whispered, You make me feel like I can breathe again. And you, she said softly, make me believe love doesn't always have to hurt. He smiled, pressing his forehead to hers. It doesn't. Not this time. The wind picked up, tugging at her coat, carrying away the last echoes of everything they'd both been afraid to say. For once they let it go. If you were standing on that rooftop, heart still healing from loss or betrayal, would you believe love can truly find you twice? Tell me what your heart says. Time didn't move in leaps after that night on the rooftop. It moved in quiet, beautiful inches. The months that followed were stitched together by simple things. Shared breakfasts, school plays, and inside jokes that only families know. Emma found herself spending weekends at the Wallace house more often than her own apartment. Her once silent calendar now dotted with reminders like Lily's ballet recital and Millie's science fair. She'd become part of their rhythm without even meaning to. On Saturday mornings, the smell of pancakes filled the kitchen while the twins argued over who got the first flip. Edward would always pretend to referee, but somehow Emma ended up with flour on her cheek every single time. It became a tradition, pancake wars, the girls called it, and Edward swore she cheated on purpose just to make him smile. Sunday nights were quieter. Family movie marathons under a mountain of blankets. The twins always picked something animated, and Edward always fell asleep halfway through. Emma never minded. Watching him doze off with a daughter tucked under each arm was the kind of peace she hadn't known she'd needed. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Still, love, even the right kind, tests itself. It started small. One evening, Emma arrived with a surprise, paint supplies for a weekend art project. The girls squealed in excitement, already imagining masterpieces. We'll make something for Daddy, Millie declared. Or for Mommy, Lily said softly. The air shifted. The paintbrush in Emma's hand stilled. She smiled gently. That's a beautiful idea. Lily hesitated. Do you think Mommy would like it? Emma nodded. I think she'd love it. But as the days passed, subtle cracks began to appear, moments too small to name, yet impossible to ignore. Lily grew quiet whenever Emma joined bedtime routines. Millie would ask for Mommy's lullaby, but only wanted her father to sing it. One afternoon, while braiding Lily's curls before school, Emma heard it. You're not Mommy, Lily said softly, not cruelly, just stating a truth her little heart couldn't quite hold yet. The words sliced deeper than Emma expected. She froze, brush still in her hand. I know, sweetheart, she whispered. And I'm not trying to be. Lily didn't mean to hurt her. She was just 6 years old, still learning that love could stretch wide enough to hold both memory and presence. But the sting lingered long after Emma dropped them off at school. By the time she returned home that evening, her smile had grown brittle. Edward noticed immediately. Rough day? He asked, leaning against the counter. She hesitated. Not really. Just something Lily said. He frowned. What did she say? Emma exhaled, the words trembling as they came out. She told me I'm not her mom. He closed his eyes, guilt flickering across his face. Emma? I know she didn't mean it, she said quickly, forcing a smile. She's a child. And she's right. You are part of their lives, he said firmly. You've done more for them than anyone could have asked for. But I'm not Clara, she said softly. And maybe that's the point. Maybe they need space to remember her without feeling like I'm taking something away. Edward reached for her hand. You're not taking anything. You're giving them something new. She squeezed his hand, but her voice was small. Maybe what they need right now isn't me. He started to protest, but she shook her head gently. Let's give it a little time, Edward. I'll stay at my place this week. Let them breathe. Let them feel safe in remembering her. The words tasted like loss, but she meant them. He nodded reluctantly. If that's what you think is best. It's what's fair, she said softly. The week stretched longer than either of them expected. Emma threw herself into work again, but every sound, every ping of her phone, every child's laugh from the street, brought the ache back. The apartment felt too quiet, too clean. She missed the chaos. She missed him. Edward, meanwhile, tried to fill the silence at home with distractions. He cooked elaborate dinners, read extra bedtime stories, even let the girls sleep in his bed one night. But when Lily asked, "Is Miss Emma mad at us?" his heart cracked. "She's not mad," he said gently. "She just wanted to give us some time." Millie frowned. "But we don't need time. We need her." That night, he sat at the kitchen table long after the girls were asleep, staring at the napkin still pinned to the fridge, the one from months ago with Miss Emma scribbled in crayon. Funny how everything always circled back to that cafe napkin. By morning, he'd made up his mind. Emma returned home Friday evening to a knock on her door. When she opened it, two little girls stood there, each holding a piece of paper. Behind them, Edward waited, hands in his pockets, eyes soft. Lily spoke first, her voice shy. "We made something for you." Emma crouched down, heart already melting. "You did?" Millie nodded and handed her the papers. The first was a drawing, 4 stick figures under a bright yellow sun, all holding hands. Written above in shaky handwriting, "Our family." The second paper held a short message in Edward's handwriting. "Family isn't who you lose. It's who stays." Emma's breath hitched. She looked up at him, eyes filling. "Lily wanted to tell you something," Edward said softly. Lily bit her lip, then stepped forward. "I'm sorry I said you're not mommy," she whispered. "I just miss her. But Daddy said hearts can fit more than one person, so maybe mine can too." Emma's throat closed. She pulled the little girl into her arms, tears slipping freely now. "Oh, sweetheart. I never wanted to be your mommy. I just wanted to love you both." Millie joined the hug, and suddenly they were all tangled together. Arms, laughter, tears. When Emma finally looked up, Edward was watching, eyes glistening. "They insisted on coming themselves," he said quietly. "I didn't plan any of this." "Maybe someone else did," she said, smiling through her tears. He stepped closer, voice low. "You were right to give us space. But I don't ever want that space again." She rose to meet his gaze. "Then don't make me leave next time." "I won't," he said simply. "Not ever." The girls tugged at their hands. "Daddy, can we make pancakes now? Miss Emma's here." He laughed, ruffling their curls. "Pancake wars it is." That night, as laughter filled the house again, Edward stood at the sink, washing dishes while Emma helped the girls decorate their masterpieces. For a moment, he just watched. Her smile, their giggles, the way light seemed to cling to her like it knew it belonged there. Something in his chest shifted, final, certain. It wasn't the slow pull of grief or the ache of nostalgia. It was peace. He dried his hands, walked to where she stood, and wrapped his arms gently around her from behind. She didn't startle. She just leaned into him as if she'd been waiting for it all along. "What's this for?" she murmured, smiling. "For everything," he said. "For staying. For loving them. For saving me." She turned slightly, looking up at him. "You don't need saving anymore, Edward." He smiled softly. "Maybe not. But I still need you." The twins giggled from the table. "You Daddy's being mushy." Emma laughed, wiping her eyes. "Guess that's our cue to change the subject." "Too late," he said, grinning. "They're stuck with us now." The girls squealed, running over to hug them both at once. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and pancake batter and love that had been earned, not inherited, Edward realized something quietly certain. He was ready. Ready for forever. If you were in Emma's shoes, told you could never replace someone lost but still loved beyond words, would you have stayed and waited for their hearts to make space for you? Or would you have walked away to protect your own? Tell me what your heart would do. 6 months later, forever had started to look beautifully ordinary. The Wallace house buzzed with laughter again. Science projects on the kitchen table, music in the background, and the twins always scheming something. Emma's toothbrush lived in the upstairs bathroom now, her books filled Edward's shelves, and her laughter filled the spaces grief had once swallowed. The rhythm of their lives was imperfect but full, stitched together by burnt pancakes, bedtime stories, and soft goodnight kisses that still made her heart skip. Love had settled into the small things, and that, Emma thought, was what made it real. So when Edward texted her one rainy Thursday morning, "Coffee tonight? Willow and Birch. My treat." 7 p.m., she didn't think much of it. It was their place after all. The cafe where everything had gone wrong, and somehow, right? She smiled, typed back, "Only if you promise not to send your daughters in first this time." His reply came seconds later. "No promises." Winking face. The rain had stopped by the time she arrived that evening. The air smelled of wet pavement and coffee beans, the cafe windows glowing with warm light. For a moment she just stood there, hand on the door, heart fluttering like it had that first night. She pushed the door open. The bell chimed, and for a heartbeat it was déjà vu. The table, the same corner one by the window, was empty. No Edward. No sign of him at all. Emma laughed under her breath. "Not again," she whispered, shaking her head. She was about to text him when she heard it, soft giggling from behind the counter. Two small heads popped up, eyes sparkling with mischief. Lily and Millie. Matching pink jackets. Again. Emma gasped. "You've got to be kidding me." Lily put a finger to her lips. "Sho. Daddy said we have to wait for the right moment." "What moment?" Emma whispered, playing along. "The special one," Millie said proudly. "He said you'd know it when you saw it." Before Emma could reply, the cafe door opened again, and there he was. Edward Wallace in a dark blue coat, hair a little damp from the rain, holding a small bouquet of daisies and white roses. He froze for a second when he saw her, and just like that first night, the world seemed to go quiet around them. "You're late," she teased softly, trying to steady her heartbeat. He smiled, stepping closer. For once, intentionally. He handed her the flowers. "They reminded me of you, steady, soft, impossible to ignore." She blushed. "And the roses?" "They reminded me of her." His voice was gentle, honest. "Because this time, both loves belong in the same story." Emma blinked back tears as he motioned toward their old table. "Sit with me?" She nodded, taking a seat. The same cafe, the same hum of life around them, but this time, no awkwardness, no grief standing between them. Just gratitude. Edward took a deep breath. "You know, I used to think life ended the night Clara died. That love had one chapter, one person, one ending. But then two little girls decided to write a sequel I never saw coming." He glanced toward the counter where two tiny heads tried and failed to hide. "And you walked into their story and gave it a new ending." Emma smiled through tears. "They wrote most of it themselves." "Maybe. But you gave us the courage to finish it." He reached across the table, his hand finding hers. "That night, when you stayed instead of walking away, I didn't know what to call it. Faith, madness, mercy, maybe all three. But now I know, it was love arriving 30 minutes late, dressed in pink jackets." Emma laughed, tears spilling freely. "You rehearsed this, didn't you?" He smiled softly. "Every night since." Then slowly he stood. The cafe went quiet. Even the barista behind the counter froze mid-pour. Edward dropped to one knee. Emma gasped, covering her mouth. "Emma Robinson," he began, voice steady but thick with emotion. "You walked into my daughter's story when I didn't have the courage to start a new one. You turned our chaos into warmth, our grief into laughter, and my fear into something worth believing in again." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Inside, a simple gold ring gleamed beneath the cafe lights. "You once told me love doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. And this," he said softly, "is as real as I know how to be. So, will you marry me?" Before she could answer, a pair of small voices squealed from behind the counter. "Say yes. Say yes. Say yes." The whole cafe burst into laughter. Emma laughed through her tears, shaking her head. "You had them hiding there the whole time?" "They insisted," Edward said with a helpless grin. "I learned not to argue with them about matters of the heart." She looked at him, this man who had once been afraid to live again, who had built a life out of loss and rebuilt it out of love, and her answer was clear before she even said it. "Yes," she whispered. Then louder, smiling through tears, "Yes, Edward. 100 times yes." The twins screamed with joy, bursting out from behind the counter and racing toward them. "She said yes," they shouted, their voices echoing through the cafe. Edward stood, laughter and tears colliding as he pulled Emma into his arms. Lily wrapped herself around his leg, Millie clung to Emma's waist, and for one impossible, perfect moment, the world felt exactly right. The barista started clapping. Someone near the door whistled. The twins spun in circles shouting, "Family hug," until Edward gathered them all together in one giant, laughing embrace. 1 year later, the backyard glowed beneath strings of fairy lights, the grass dotted with white chairs and flower petals. A small arch of daisies and roses stood beneath the oak tree, the same flowers from that night at the cafe. Emma stood at the edge of the path, her cream dress swaying in the evening breeze. Her hands trembled, not from nerves but from awe. The twins, dressed in soft pink dresses, held baskets of petals, whispering conspiratorially. "Don't drop them all at once," Edward's best man warned. "We won't," Millie promised. "We practiced." As the music began, the twins walked down the aisle together, scattering petals unevenly but proudly. The guests smiled, phones raised, laughter mingling with the soft hum of violins. Then Emma appeared, radiant in simplicity, her smile steady as she met Edward's gaze. He looked at her the way he always did, like he couldn't quite believe she was real. When she reached him, he took her hand, pressing it gently against his heart. "Do you remember what I said the night we met?" he whispered. "You said your daughters ambushed me," she teased. He laughed softly. "Before that, I said I was sorry I was late." She smiled. "You were worth the wait." The ceremony was short, heartfelt, full of laughter and tears. But the moment that broke everyone's composure came near the end, when the twins, as flower girls, carried a single red rose and placed it gently on an empty chair in the front row. "For Mommy," Lily whispered. "For forever," Millie added. Edward's eyes filled as he mouthed, "Thank you." Emma reached for his hand, her voice barely audible. "Sometimes love just runs late." He turned to her, his smile trembling. "But it always finds its way." As they kissed beneath the glowing lights, applause erupted. The twins cheered the loudest, shouting, "We did it! We fixed it!" Emma laughed through happy tears. "Yes, you did." Later that night, as the guests drifted away and the lights dimmed, Emma stood barefoot in the grass, watching the twins dance under the stars. Edward came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "This is home," he whispered. She nodded. "It always was." He kissed her temple. "Remind me again how this all started?" Emma smiled, eyes on the girls. "With an empty table, 2 little messengers, and a man who showed up late." He laughed softly. "The best lateness of my life." She turned in his arms, meeting his gaze, her voice soft but certain. "Sometimes love doesn't knock. It barges in, wearing matching pink jackets, holding hot chocolate and saying, 'My daddy's sorry he's late.' And this time he wasn't."
Thanks so much for watching till the end. If this story moved you, you're going to love what's coming next. It's even more surprising and emotional than this one. Go ahead and click the story on your screen right now, and see you in the next story.